there's no quotes from these games.
That's what I actually was thinking about that. There's no quotes for like McKenna to say to kick off the episode. We actually don't have a quote.
These games suck then. No quotes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I am Gooey, joined, as always, by my co-host and fiancé, McKenna.
Hello.
We're the first ever engaged podcast.
Yeah, first ever. It's never been.
No podcast has ever been engaged like this before. But we're joined by, first of all, returning guest and champion, IdolismJ.
Champion? I got updated? Oh my lord.
I think you've dominated the podcast.
The sicko waves have come in a little hot and heavy. And also now that I'm live, congratulations to you too. I was like very excited to get off work and like throw open my phone, and the first thing I saw was that you two were engaged.
Yes, thank you. It was great. We got a lot of kind words from people I didn't even know who they were. I was like, oh, this is very sweet.
Yes, attention to strangers on the internet. Bring it in.
We are also joined by a new guest and maybe number one contender, Matty-Matt.
Number one contender.
Yeah, you could be champion one day.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
As we said, this is our first pod after getting engaged. So thanks again to everyone for all your kind words. Do you have a speech prepared?
A speech?
The Bowser now?
You live on air. No. It's.
I baked you a cake. No.
Oh, that has happened. Yeah, that really didn't happen. But that, you know what? That had nothing to do with it. Let's talk about video games. So one thing we like to do is with new guests is kind of figure out what their story is on the N64. So Matt, what's your background? I know you were kind of like, I remember you said you weren't sure what games to like kind of agree to talk about. What's your backstory with the N64?
Well, so a couple months ago, I actually asked my mom to find out when exactly this date would have been. But at the times of the games that we're talking about today, I was not 3 yet.
Okay.
So I was I'm still very young, and I remember having an N64 in my mind for a long time before the GameCube came out, but it must have been like Christmas of like 2000 or 1999 or something like that by the time I first got it. And that was, just like the, Mario 64 and whatnot. And most of the games I played during that time were just gotten from like a rent video store. It was not Blockbuster, but it was like just a local place called Movie Gallery. And, we'd go there and I'd just pick up N64 games. But not like a whole lot. I feel like my more beginning, like young gamer developments were like once the GameCube came out, and I got that pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But probably the biggest games that I played during that time are like Paper Mario, one of my favorite games, but that was like right near the end of that was right near the end of the N64's time, so that gives you a good estimate of where I started becoming a person instead of
for sure. But it's nice that you have N64 there, right at the beginning. Right, and Paper Mario is a great early game memory for sure.
I have the Paper Mario cartridge that I got from Movie Gallery because I had rented it a bunch of times while they were still open, and then when they were closing, I was like, "Mom, can I get this? Can we buy this?" And it still has like a tag on the back, really faded, that just says Movie Gallery on it still. And that's like just how I imagine playing the N64 back during that time. I only have like 6 or 7 cartridges, and then that's it.
Wow, what a treasure that cartridge is.
Oh yeah.
So we're talking about some games today. So we're talking 1997 we're in. So you said you were just 3 years old.
Almost 3.
Almost 3.
A month away from being 3. It was big times for me.
Okay, so maybe here if we do our flashback segment, I don't know, maybe you'll like spark some memory of being a baby. We should get into it. Why not? Let's do it. We should have like a special jingle or something that plays when we flashback. Like flashback or something.
Nico back on retainer. Is Nico the one that does the theme work?
Oh yeah, you know what? In fact, we got to give a shout out to Nico, who's I think in the lab right now producing some more.
He's cooking up.
Oh man,
he's cooking up some good flashback music that we'll have coming. But maybe we need to get a flashback, and it does like the sound effects early. Yeah. All right, let's do it. We are moving forward in 1997 from our last episode, from July 1st all the way up to our 2 games were released in July 8th and August 11th. They were released on July 8th and August 11th. So we're moving forward from there. We've already mentioned the song "I'll Be Missing You" by Puff Daddy way too much, so I think we'll just
back again. Is it?
It's there. And of course we haven't moved too far forward in time, so we're seeing a lot of these heaters that we've already mentioned: Mbop, Bitch, Return of the Mac, Look Into My Eyes, top 5 songs for a good portion of the
Return of the Mac, baby. Let's go.
Oh, Return of the Mac, yeah. Such a jam. But we also, here's some heaters that kind of slip into the top 5 during the time. We've got Mo Money, Mo Problems and Semi-Charmed Life. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Quick aside, if you've seen me, I think I have my tag updated for this on Blue Sky, but if you've seen me on Twitter, you'll notice that I have Yace in front of my name. That's the fighting game team that me and multiple friends founded like 12 years ago. Like, the official theme of that team is Semi-Charmed Life. Like, that song means a lot to all of us.
That's a good song to get you pumped up.
A non-zero chance that like I get matching tattoos with one of my friends from Yace. That is the lyrics to Semi-Charmed Life somewhere on my arm or something. Like, we all love that song.
It's a classic. We actually listened to we were out of town this past weekend, and we took a drive and we listened to a lot of the #1 albums we're about to talk about, but although it wasn't one of the #1s, I also threw on the Third Eye Blind self-titled album, because it is basically wall-to-wall
like the
bangers.
The first 6 songs of that album are like all charted. They're all it's like, I know that album is like 12, maybe 13 tracks. If you just put the first 6 tracks, you'd have like the greatest EP ever, because it's every one of those things I think they charted, and if they didn't, they should have. Like, the only only song that wasn't released as a single was Narcolepsy, and that's crazy, because Narcolepsy is an insane song.
Some of the actual here we listened to most of these. I think maybe all of them. #1 albums in this time period were, Spice came back to #1 after a 4-week run that I had earlier in May and June. And I think that was the highest selling album of the year. Fat of the Land by The Prodigy. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that album it means a million things to me. I love that album.
We were kind of, it was also similar to the Third Eye Blind one. Just every song after the other was like crazy.
I think it's like maybe a couple years after it, I heard that album for the first time, because the song Namarian was on a burned CD my friend let me listen to on the bus ride home, and I was like, this is the coolest song I've ever heard. And I would like think of that song for years until I found out it was from that album.
I know this is like more music talk than we normally get into here, but I was saying while we were driving, like, that this was like an era defining album. Like it sounds like every movie, video game, music video, like just
we do not have enough time on this podcast for me to spend the next 35 minutes talking about how Big Beat became the commercialized sound for the next 5 years until you get to the point where Crystal Method's name of the game is doing commercials for Ford F-150s in like 2001.
Yeah.
Like, I've done the research.
Oh, God. Okay, there's a video in the works there, I think. Or we could do an episode.
I wanted to write something about that, but I wouldn't want to do a video on it.
Really simple.
Really simple.
It's really simple.
Okay.
All right, now it's a part. I go, just bounce it with me, just bounce with me, just bounce it with me. Come on, let me see you. Just slide with me, just slide with me, just slide with me.
Oh,
Come
God.
on, let me see you take a walk with me, just walk it with me, take a walk with me. Come on, now make your neck work.
Men in Black for the album was #1 for 2 weeks. No Way Out by Puff Daddy and the Family, and The Art of War by Bone Thugs and Harmony. Those were other. Let's see, #1 movies. Of course, Men in Black was #1 for 3 weeks in a row. We were watching these. We were living it up because we watched Men in Black. Then the next movie for 2 weeks in a row, the #1 movie was Air Force One. And then the movie, I don't know if either of y'all will have heard of this movie, but Conspiracy Theory, starring Mel Gibson, was #1.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we've gone into the realm of forgotten Mel Gibson movies already in this podcast. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about that other than it's been interesting.
Jerry Fletcher has theories.
The whole Vietnam War was fought over a bet that Howard Hughes lost to Aristotle Onassis.
Some would call his theories crazy.
You're telling me that NASA is going to kill the President of the United States with an earthquake?
Not exactly the kind of thing a Secret Service agent can, just throw himself on top of.
Jay, you're gonna love this. Other notable games from the time. King of Fighters 97. Carmageddon. Mega Man X4. I don't know. I thought maybe King of Fighters would resonate with you.
So 97 is getting dangerously close to the best one.
Ooh,
97 is a very good King of Fighters. I don't play it a whole lot, but we'll reconvene in a year's time when we get to King of Fighters 98, because that's the King of Fighters. Like, that is the one that many King of Fighters still get played to this day, but King of Fighters 98 is the best King of Fighters.
Oh, okay.
Consensus.
Okay.
97 is still consensus a very good pick. It's just not as popular. But a lot of people, I think a lot of people in Korea still play 97. And I mean, Mexico, they'll play any King of Fighters. So, but 97 is popular, but it does have the problem of just being the game before 98.
And obviously, it's overshadowed completely by Dark Rift, which just
Kronos.
No, I don't know anything about the scene, but that definitely.
Why do you think SNK had to merge with Playmore? They were done. They were done for.
Over.
The bleeding started here.
Joe Camel will be given a life sentence and put away forever.
July 4th, NASA's Pathfinder space probe lands on the surface of Mars. July 10th, RJR Nabisco announces it will replace Joe Camel in new ads. So,
boo! Joe Camel's gone.
I know, boo. Return. July 31st, A's first baseman Mark McGwire becomes MLB's top home run hitter, to be traded in the middle of the season when he moves from Oakland to the St. Louis Cardinals. 31 home runs and 81 RBI. So this is the beginning of the Slugger Mania.
This is the era. Yeah, this is the Mark McGwire era. This guy was dominating all the sports talk for years.
It was crazy here because it was the rivalry between, the Cubs with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, the Cardinals, the biggest rival. The two teams with the big hitters are also rivals. It was crazy, especially growing. It was just wild. Everyone was going Chicago for a moment got to be cool with the Bulls and Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, they shut up. You got the Bulls. You guys got to be. You didn't just get to be cool. You got to be on top of the world.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I took it for granted.
And Randy nods no. Now all right, the 3-2 pitch to McGuire. Swing and a high fly ball belted. And I mean belted deep to left field into the upper deck. My, oh my, what a shot by McGuire. That is probably the longest home run ever hit here.
Also, August 4th, Jean Clement, the verified oldest person to have ever lived, died at 122 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Shout out. I just thought that was crazy.
I didn't know they made him that long.
I can't fathom what that is like. I hope she had a good last 20 years of her. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. Yeah. Every year after 100, it's a joke at that point, I guess.
Well, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I would love it. I'd be like, I guess maybe I could play Tetrisphere, depending on.
Ain't no way her reaction.
But the French woman has to be the world's oldest rap artist. Aptly entitled The Mistress of Time, her album is a mixture of funk rap songs and techno dance tunes.
Why don't we switch gears and talk about the aforementioned darked? I can't talk today. Dark. I think this
Let's see if I can talk.
This proposal's got me all
McKenna, help your boy out over here. Get in there.
Save me. Dark Rift. We're talking about Dark Rift.
Yeah. Dark Rift is a 3D fighting game, and the first fighting game developed specifically for the Nintendo 64, as opposed to being a port of an arcade game. It's also the first game to achieve 60 frames per second on the Nintendo 64. Evil Emperor Sonork yes.
Sorry,
is holding a tournament. I'm not gonna be able to do this now.
Okay, I'm normal.
He's holding a tournament in which the prize is the core prime element, a piece of the master key, which was created to lock away the secrets and powers of the cosmos. He hopes this will lure out the holder of the light prime element, who Sonork is confident he can defeat, so that he can then use both elements to overpower the demon lord Demitron, who has the dark prime element embedded in his head. Warriors in the tournament use a variety of weapons and projectiles to battle and are able to sidestep opponents on the three-dimensional playing field. There are 8 playable characters initially, each with their own combos, along with 2 additional boss characters unlockable by completing the game.
I definitely, as I was playing the game, that was always on my mind. All the stuff about the light prime.
This is a podcast service, because that's the most anyone's ever going to know about Dark Rift right there.
This might be monumental.
I was trying to write the description, and I was like, I feel like I don't have that much to say about the game. And then I was like, let me look at the story. So I read the game manual, and I was like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot of lore. I tried to sift through and figure out the important parts. And this is what I came up with.
It, yeah. Yeah. I guess, Jay, it's kind of up to you if you think this is a thing where you're gonna unleash.
Yeah. So if you want to do the same thing as the War Gods episode, where you guys go off and then we go to Jay's Sicko Corner.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, okay. First of all, I guess I don't know if I know there's some backstory with the developer. I don't know if that's part of the Sicko Corner, but
no, that can be that's kind of a general thing. The Sicko Corner isn't as long as it will be for War Gods, but
so this is made by Kronos, correct?
Kronos, yeah.
For who published this? It was
Vic Tokai,
who I have been aware of some Vic Tokai games. I think just seeing them, certain ones in arcades, and
they've been around as a publisher for a while to this point. They were, I believe, the most, I don't know if I'd say the most notable, because they might have other things, but when I think of Vic Tokai, I always think Clash at Demon Head for the NES. I'm pretty sure they published or developed that.
Yeah, and but Kronos themselves, only, there was, this is actually a sequel, apparently, too.
Yeah.
Is Criticom is the first game, right?
Yes.
I guess if you have a whole thing about that, we can.
So
leave it too,
if you remember in the War Gods episode, I offhandedly said that one day I'm going to need about a 5-minute run on Criticom. I did not realize that day was going to be like 3 months later.
All right, I'll stop trying to give lore then on the actual development story, and we'll just Matt. I want to throw it to you because you like you were saying you kind of didn't have actually I don't have much of a list of games to send to you, so you were like, if you ever if you have any like random ones you want to throw me
if you ever want just a random perspective of someone who has not played it before.
And I kind of do. I mean, we already have that, I guess, with me and McKenna for sure, but I kind of like having on guests who, if we can get them to try a little. I mean, Jay, you kind of got to do that a little bit with like Hexen. I mean, it wasn't totally foreign to you, but it wasn't what you signed up for. But I think it's fun just to kind of put people out of their element a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fun for me as well because like I only see fighting games through one lens, so like I also like hearing how other people interact and interpret them because I have a laser focus on how I see them.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say you're not talking to a single fighting game person right now at all. I'm just guessing. Actually, I don't know, Matt, but.
No.
Okay. And what did you? I guess what was your what was your impression of playing this game?
I mean, I thought it was cool. The thing is that, like you said, I'm not a fighting game person. So when I went into it, as far as gameplay goes, it's not necessarily my speed. I thought it felt a little slow, but I also don't know how to do better things in it.
Sure.
But the lore is what interested me. I like the characters, the setting. I also read up on it because I felt like that's something that I could maybe talk about more on if I looked into it. The thing that caught me was going into tournament mode and just having this crawl that was, for some characters, way too fast to read.
Yes, I was trying to narrate one of them to McKenna the other day, and I could not keep up.
That's exactly what I was trying to do at the time, and because I was like, playing it in front of friends, and for most characters we just could not do it. We had to race at the end. But they all have their cool reasons for entering this tournament, except for the characters that do not have a reason, and it's just listed as nobody knows why they're here. Who knows?
That's fair. Not everyone's got to be the main character. McKenna, how about you? What was your initial reaction to playing? We've already played some fighting games, I guess.
I thought there were two characters that stood out to me a lot.
Okay.
I'm crossing my fingers right now.
So I feel like Morphix is like the main one that stands out too.
Morphix was cool, but you couldn't read his bio quick enough, that's for sure. He was one of them.
Yeah, he has like blades for arms.
Yeah.
So like most of the characters have like different weapons.
He shapeshifts or something, right?
Yeah.
He
morphs.
Yeah, he's a Morphix, yeah.
And then there's this like disgusting looking demon named
Demonica.
Which
I'm realizing the names
I just
descriptive.
Love the name.
Demonica.
Just taking like Monica as a name, but also a demon in there.
Mambo number 5.
Yeah. Can we get a remix? But yeah, I was playing and I was like, wow, like big props to this game for making an ugly female character in the 90s.
Yeah, shout out to this nasty character.
Monica and her gigantic demon heels.
Look, I don't want to throw around, adjectives like ugly or something. She has amazing dance moves that really, really win you over. She has charisma.
She's got her pelvic projectile.
Some of the like the cool like grabs and stuff were fun to do, like compared to Like, you actually get like almost a little cutscene every time you do it. I guess I would also say, for me, like the thing that I'm kind of struggling with is, like, I really actually want to have, maybe Jay, you could like steer me in the right direction. I want to have like the aha moment where like my brain clicks with these sort of fighting games, I guess. Like, I came close to it recently. I was playing Mortal Kombat 2 with Connor, and I was kind of like, finally, like, some of the moves were kind of connecting. But I want to have that moment. But it's
you're not finding it during Dark Rift, buddy. I'll tell you right now.
Exactly, and it comes after like, and I think an even worse experience in War Gods.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what I mean.
You have to like. I don't to say like you have to learn to walk before you run is kind of dismissive, but like
yeah, no, that's
you don't want to. You're not going to find the feeling of making sense in a game that doesn't make good sense.
That's why, but the problem is like I'm not really budgeting out my time really well, because I bought like every version of Tetris that I could find and was playing them all, and I've still been playing random like things of Doom, but like I need to like budget time to like sit down with like the right fighting game that will like, that I could spend some time with. But it's like, I don't know, I'm having a hard time. Like, I want to give, I guess this game and War Gods don't really deserve like a fair shake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do want to kind of give them a fair shake, but it's just hard to when it's like, it's, I guess this is coming not much after War Gods, and I'm kind of like over it a little bit. This was definitely better, though. It was definitely better.
This game is way better than War Gods.
For sure.
I don't know if way better is like really what I want to say, but like definitely a lot better.
Yeah, I would say so. But I guess just I'm thinking about it in the timeline of the show. And I already said this about War Gods, but I would probably be pretty bummed. You already said it. The N64 wasn't for fighting games, but I would be bummed if I was the N64 owner and like this is what I got to pick from. I guess I probably wouldn't even pick it up if I had Mortal Kombat Trilogy or Killer Instinct. Like, I guess in the reality where I'm not playing every game for the show, I would probably just still be playing one of those like more often. So that was kind of how I felt about it. But Jay, if you want to go off and
right,
because you actually like, well, for a lot of the like random fighting games I've never heard of, your name is by them all. So
yeah, I as explained, I'm a sicko. I have the freak gene. I've been playing fighting games. It's actually very funny. The day that we're recording this is the 15th anniversary of Street Fighter 4. Which is nice. The entry point for competitive fighting games for a lot of people, myself included, although I did start a couple years earlier. And so it's like, congratulations, 09ers. That's the name for people who started with Street Fighter 4. You've been in the game for 15 years now. So I'm like, realistically, I'm like 17 years deep into like playing fighting games. So I got a lot of experience.
Is Jay's Sicko Corner going to have its own theme song too?
Oh my god! There's not that many fighting games. That's the problem. If we're commissioning Nico, we're not going to get a whole lot of mileage. There's not a lot of return on interest on that one.
That one I also want screaming, but it's like the guy. I'm gonna get the guy who screamed Mortal Kombat. Jason, go corner.
So to talk about Dark Rift, you have to talk about Criticom.
Yes,
Criticom is. When gaming hit the third dimension, fighting games were one of the first things that like really wanted to capitalize on it, because we're still within the post Street Fighter 2, post Mortal Kombat boom period for fighting games. Like, there's relevant reason for them to be at the arcades, and there's even more relevant reason for them to be trying to be ported home. And outside of Virtua Fighter, you want a video topic, I'll maybe one day get to, Goo. It's Virtua Fighter is way better than anyone recognizes. The first Virtua Fighter is nearly flawless, and it's still good. And
that kind of loomed large, right? At the time. It kind of loomed large at the time.
Oh, it was huge. It was like the first 3D fighting game. And for maybe the next like decade, people could only sniff Virtua Fighter 1 in terms of being that good. Like, people just didn't get how to be a good 3D fighting game. And so there's just endless amounts of people who knew how to make 3D polygons, but not like make a good 3D fighter. And out of all those piles of jank, there's always like the conversation of like, okay, what's the worst PS1 looking ass 3D fighting game? Because there's so many. Criticom for my money is probably the easy answer for worst. That game has that game is like imparsable. There's like almost no game feel. You do special moves and you don't really know how many hits they do because like the hit sparks and the hit detection are just all sorts of off. It's awful. It's one of the worst fighting games. And it's interesting artifact because of that. And that was made by Kronos.
That was like their first game, right?
That is their first game. And I believe they didn't really get a whole lot of time to make it. It was like rushed for Christmas market, if memory serves me correctly. So like it was bad, but it was also rushed bad. They had a lot of things not going their way. So they made Dark Rift as a pseudo sequel, but they didn't keep the Criticom name on there for like very obvious reasons. They didn't want that stink attached to it. I don't know why it came to the N64, because
is that all it's on?
Yeah, it's only an N64 game. It's like it's like specifically made for the N64, which is really weird.
That said that it was for the Saturn first.
Oh, I think it began development for the Saturn, and then it is only on N64.
Right.
Yeah, it's
how does that happen?
Kronos, so like, there's a Kronos trilogy, and it's Criticom, Dark Rift, and Cardinal Sin. And so Cardinal Sin goes back to the PS1, and we'll never talk about it, so I'll just say it here. Cardinal Sin's a good game. Cardinal Sin's fun. Like, I think Cardinal Sin is actually a very fun. Yeah, by Cardinal Sin they figured it out. I think Cardinal Sin is a really fun. Like, anyone can sit down and I think have a fun time with Cardinal Sin.
Okay.
So like, Criticom is around like the War Gods levels where it's like, what is going on here? Dark Rift is better. Like, you said you wanted to get your aha, I get it moment with a fighting game.
Yeah.
Dark Rift is really, really close to Soul Calibur before Soul Calibur happens.
That is actually a game I am into as well.
Yeah, like it's a weapons-based fighting game that has pretty much the majority of the mechanics that Soul Calibur does. Whereas you have vertical attacks and you have horizontal attacks and you have kicks. And the idea is horizontal attacks you can duck, vertical attacks you can sidestep. And then kicks, I don't think people really had an idea for at the moment yet. They're still kind of just like, it's a kick. I don't know what to tell you, dog.
Kick in a fighting game.
I don't know what to tell you. So like, there is a working system to Dark Rift because it has like lows, mids, high, or overheads. And so some strings, like your horizontal attacks usually are highs and you can duck them. Your vertical attacks are usually overheads that can't be ducked. Like the game isn't graceful, but like it mostly works. Like there's a system in place that like, okay, this is close enough to a real fighting game. The critical flaw of Dark Rift is that there is no block stun on any attack. So when you hit someone, they are in a state called hit stun for however many frames that takes. And usually it's a big amount of time. If you get hit, you don't recover for very long. And the same thing happens with block stun in most fighting games. You block an attack, you are still stunned, but it's for a drastically less amount of time. You know, some attacks when blocked are punishable, some attacks when blocked are safe. In Dark Rift, if you block an attack, like you win. Because there's like no block stun. So anytime someone's doing a string of attacks, if you block one of them and you recognize that like, oh, I blocked it, like you just immediately press a button, you'll interrupt their combo because, however, like most of the times, there's some combos that are fast enough, but like if someone just like pokes you and you block it, you can counterattack them basically because they're still recovering from their attack and there's no block stun, so you just immediately recover after blocking.
Wow.
And fighting games don't work like that. So it becomes like a very strange game to play because it's a fine game until someone blocks correctly. and then the momentum immediately shifts.
I'll say
that's
watching
interesting, but it's not like it's not good.
When I was watching McKenna play, I think some of the best success you had were like when you had some good blocks, like good time blocks. Like whether like it's not like I don't think either of us knew that was going on, but obviously it really seemed. I was like, oh, maybe I don't know, maybe I should just try to block.
And it's kind of an issue because in many 3D games, strings will not naturally combo. Like the more advanced games get, you'll have in Tekken, you'll have strings that are like a 3-hit string. Only the first 2 hits combo, the third one doesn't, unless it's on counter hit, and in which case all 3 will combo. And so there's a little bit of that happening in Dark Rift, but like that sucks because you don't I don't think there's any sort of counter hit state in Dark Rift, so you just do a string and like the third hit will never really. If they try to hold back during that string and the third attack is still a high, well, you're just getting punished afterwards because the third attack's it's gonna get blocked.
That I can see that being a hindrance for sure with what you're saying. Like it's not something I ever really got to that level in this game where I was figuring, seeing that stuff sort of occur. I was just kind of like. I kind of actually, this one, when I got further along in some of the tournament modes where it gets harder, I found myself, like, compared to Killer Instinct, where we're just kind of like, all right, let's continue and power through. And this one, I was sort of like, I think I've had my fill. So I never hit that point. I actually, maybe I wish I had some of your insider info before, because on War Gods, I got to try out your grab technique, and that worked out pretty good.
There's been some additional people who labbed out the grab technique after we had that episode.
Oh.
And it turns out it's not guaranteed. It's actually just a 50-50 because you can't block throws in that game, but you can duck them. But if you duck them, anyone's standing kick will start a combo. So it's actually 50-50 on wake up between if you stand there holding, you can either hold back to like not be thrown and then eat one thing, or you can try and cover for a mid kick that will start a combo. So there's more tech to that. People after I posted those findings, the rest of the sickos that follow me are like, actually we do have some tech stored in the back. Let me go talk to the manager and find it.
You're doing science, and you understand this is like a process. You get peer reviewed and you discover more things. So
pretty much, I know a lot of people who are even more intelligent about this stuff than I am. So they took to finding it out. I assure you, they will not do the same for Dark Rift.
No, what is it about this? Is it because
it's just it's not as interesting. Like once you realize that there's no block stun, and the way, like the game almost it's almost a case of the game is a little too good to be fun because it works the way it should, but not having substantial block stun just makes it so it's okay, well, I don't use this because this ends in a unnatural combo that could get blocked. I don't do that because if someone blocks here, the next attack in the string won't actually fire off. Do I just play defensively? Do I just learn? Like, in a pure competitive sense, if you were playing this game and you were playing to win and you studied it, you would try to recognize what character has what string, so you would know, like, okay, here's the first 2 hits of this string. The next hit is a low. Like Nikki, for example. Nikki has like a horizontal / low kick. That's one of her strings. In a competitive sense, you'd be like, cool, I see those horizontal slashes. I know what's next. It's a low string. If I block low, then I take my turn back and I punish her. Like that's the research at that point. And that's not fun research. That's just like competitive learning research.
That kind of just in general, what you said about it kind of sums up sort of my feelings of it overall, is that it definitely felt like it is definitely a better game than War Gods and everything, but War Gods is kind of like more fun to gawk at a little
funnier bit. Yeah Like the reason why people like Kusoge, like, shit game in Japanese, I mean, is because they're usually like broken in funny and engaging ways. Yeah. And Dark Rift just isn't really broken in like a fun way. It's broken in a way you can circumvent if you really want to, but it doesn't make the game better.
It's kind of it's mid. It's actually
that's really the way to describe it. It is mid.
We came close actually to having I'm sure someone could have disproven this. Well, we disproved it ourselves, but McKenna had a sicko corner going when she was playing the game.
Yeah, I think what happened was that I was like near the end of a match, and you were like, you were like, oh, you have more health. Like if you just back off, there's only a few more seconds left, and you'll win.
Yeah.
So I won, and then I kept doing it.
Every arena is this void you're in. This endless void.
Yeah. I was like, can I just keep doing that the whole time? So I, next match I got the other character's health down below mine, and I just
go for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just backed up, and I got it until I had to fight Demonica.
Yeah, it was like
she
a
was
certain
little
level. They would run at her.
Yeah,
Demonica,
and she has her projectiles. Her pelvic projectile that she
the
couldn't get away from.
Yeah, couldn't dodge
get away from fast enough.
Because like some of the projectiles in this game, they're too fat to sidestep properly.
Yeah,
it's like sidestepping works on a weird scale where like the closer you are to someone, the further you sidestep them. The farther away from someone you are, you just barely like shutter step over one bit, and so like it doesn't actually work for projectiles very well. But if you get close to someone and you sidestep, you could basically do a 180 around them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, McKenna, you clued into something. You discovered something that a lot of people who play in tournaments, they don't even figure out. Like, why fight? If I just escape and I have the life lead, I'll win. That's what's important. People get wrapped up in like, oh, I gotta learn to play. I gotta fight. I gotta prove my worth. No, you win. You win. That's what's important. Is winning. So, good shit, McKenna. Like, legitimately, people do not come to that conclusion all the time, and you did.
Thank you.
McKenna's always cooking up good defensive strats in games. I will say it was fun as just the tournament mode is what it was, whatever to me, but all these games, there is some value in just like when McKenna and I were fighting against each other, or times where like, I guess we played some other games like against friends, but in this case against each other, like it doesn't really matter how bad the game is if the characters are like either cool or funny enough to get in there. Yep. I know, Matt, you said you played this with friends. Did you do multiplayer? Like competitive?
No, it was just me playing, but with friends enjoying the show.
Yeah. What was that like?
I mean, we, like I said, we were trying to, figure out these characters' plots. We were enjoying it. Honestly, I like the atmosphere of the game.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the music. The music was not hype battle music. It was more like jungle sounds.
Yeah, it was very like a little too atmospheric.
It was a little too atmospheric at times.
I think I could be into a fighting game where the tone isn't like just hype, but I feel like this soundtrack didn't quite get you going at all in any way. It wasn't horrible, but I don't know. We were listening to it a little bit on its own, and we're like, okay, we get the idea.
Yeah. But the characters were fun.
Did you have a favorite character?
Demonica is definitely my favorite character.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one I played with the most, and I also I like her moves. I like her, and by moves, I don't mean like fighting moves. I mean like her dance moves.
She's got it going on.
Nikki was cool. I like some of the backstories for these characters. Take this little journey with me, right?
Yeah, please.
There's this potentially, we're kind of ambiguous with what the power levels and power scales here are, but there's like this apparently very powerful demon. His name is Sonork. You're right. We got Sonork here.
That's one of the worst names we've encountered lately of all the like villains and stuff.
So we got Sonork, this very powerful guy. He thinks he's just like the biggest, baddest dude there is. So he holds this tournament. He's trying to lure out to get the other piece of the Triforce, essentially, is what we're
pretty much
the master key. And like everyone's like, oh, everyone has their different reasons, again, except for the people who have no reason to be here, like Nikki, to just come be in this tournament for whatever reason. And Earth, hearing about this tournament, hearing about this powerful being, sends this guy, Aaron Maverick. He's just like a commando special task force guy. He's got assault rifle, and he's gonna do the job. He's gonna come in here and save the planet, get everything he needs. And then there's, he's lining up against morphing men and demons, gods from another plane and rift.
It was a little like I don't know, Jay, would you say it's fair? I feel like it's fair to say that Mortal Kombat is like it's maybe so broad in like kind of the genres it transcends that it's like I feel like it's hard for other fighting games to like step out of that, because like I was getting Mortal Kombat, the different worlds and like the robots and ninjas or whatever.
It's hard to say this because I only have a Western appreciation for these things. Like I can't transplant myself to what 1994 Japanese fighting game culture looked like, but Mortal Kombat might be more influential than Street Fighter, because for the next like 8 years after Mortal Kombat, every game was pretty much running Mortal Kombat's DNA.
Yeah.
Like it like fighting games, Western ones almost exclusively, they just didn't know how to be a fighting game that wasn't somewhat based on Mortal Kombat.
See, I thought you were going to say that Mortal Kombat might be more influential than Dark Rift, and I was going to say I think you have a point there.
If I could be so bold.
Because Matt, when you're describing the lore, that's like all I can just think of is it's sort of like they switch some things around. Aaron, Jax, Aaron, whatever. Like they just kind of. I mean, not every. There are like there's I don't know. Demonica is pretty unique, but.
I will say, I think it's either Demonica or Morphix is in Criticom. One of those two characters, maybe both, is on loan from Criticom. I don't think anyone else reappears, but I know one of those two does.
Who is the big dude? I feel like the big dude might have been. What's his name?
His name's Gore, but at this point we're so deep into like big dudes that I just want to name them all Grok.
Yep, that guy is officially Croc.
I think like as we go through this podcast, any big like orcish guys, like that's a Grok.
That's a Grok.
They're all Grok.
That's a Grok coded character.
That's such a Grok coded character. It's so Grok of him.
And also starring Grok. Well, Matt, was there anything else with the lore that like kind of connected with you? I just want to make sure, because it seemed like you actually kind of got into it a little bit, like you were describing what was going on.
Well, the funny thing is that as far as I can tell, there's not like, I mean, unless I did not get to the end of a tournament mode, So unless there's more lore, ending. Unless there's more lore at an ending of this game, I think. As far as I can find, there is a setup for this tournament, and that's kind of the baseline. That's where it starts and ends.
The way most of these things work is when you beat the game, you get to figure out that character's ending. But we never, like, again, I feel like I've done the game a little bit of a disservice where I was like, I did the Game Shark and unlocked, there was like secret characters. I Game Sharked them in and played them for a second, but.
Well, the two characters that you unlocked were Sonork.
Hell yeah.
And Lord Demon Demetron, I think.
Okay, cool.
There is such. I feel like they're both the bad guys of this game. They're the two people holding the two core. Or no, sorry. The prime elements. Sonork's got the core one, Demetron's got the dark one, and somebody has the light core element, or like the light prime element, but nobody knows who. they're trying to figure that out.
Did we ever figure out who it was?
I certainly didn't.
Oh. I'm sorry to Dark Rift, but how about the lore for you? Were you into it? You just learned it all today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just learned it all and summed it up.
I just learned it all as I was listening to you say it. So, one last thing that I can think of at least is for the 3D aspect of it. McKenna, what did you think about the sidestepping compared to the 3D button of War Gods?
I feel like sometimes the sidestep worked really well, and we kind of already talked about this. Yeah. Other times it just did not. Mm-hmm. And when it worked well, it was really nice.
I feel like it was definitely just in general that made more sense in my head to do, as opposed to in War Gods you'd have to hit a button to then move in 3. You know, it never really felt like this felt 3D button
never caught on for a reason.
it made more sense. It felt, fluid. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like this is kind of a thing with a lot of games from that time, like pre-dual stick, where they have to come up with kind of a unique way to move you around in 3D, like without actually having like another kind of axis or whatever, like controller axis to move you on. So like actually that was kind of a thing with the quote unquote 3D parts in Star Fox 2, where you're running around on the tank and you're using the shoulder buttons to turn.
Yeah,
like it's a pretty good solution for it for the time. And I definitely I can actually see what you're saying about like the roots of that being in Soul Calibur. And so maybe Soul Calibur is the secret to me getting into these, but
Soul Calibur is a game that like makes pretty good sense. Like it's not hard to play Soul Calibur.
The skill, I just felt like the skill from that was never transferable onto like Mortal Kombat or any of those games. No. So I feel like I'm stuck.
I'm also of the belief that like Mortal Kombat's maybe not the greatest, most sense-making game, but it's fun. That's what really matters.
Yeah, it's actually like Street Fighter is the one that's like considered like the actual good game. And I don't know. I don't want to say something and get killed. So
I mean, saying that Street Fighter is the good game is pretty tame. You're not gonna ruffle too many feathers with that one.
I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Pretty well established that Street Fighter had this one in the bag.
Matt, what about just one more? The 3D. Did it make sense to you, or did you just not get that far?
I mean, no. I mean, it made sense to me. I mean, I feel like again, I'm not really in that. I'm not like into a fighting game scene or anything, but I feel like most 3D fighting games past this point that I've played kind of incorporate the same kind of mechanic.
Yeah.
It felt natural. It didn't, I don't know necessarily how much the 3D element of that adds in the end. If it's just another way to kind of, dodge and get around, I guess that can open up a lot of windows. But again, without being in the fighting game scene, it's just, I'm over here now.
Sure. I guess I sort of feel like if this was their, like, if you told me this was like their first game, I'd be like, okay, this is like respectable,
There's a good foundation in this game for a better game, a more polished, better game down the line.
And from what Jay says, there is. So
that game is Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah. But, I was thinking of what was that?
Cardinal Sin is actually a little bit different than this. Very funny. We should not camp out on this very long. Cardinal Sin might also have a 3D button, but it does it very well.
Okay.
It's more like a free roam button. Cardinal Sin's a bit more like a
all range,
more of like it's kind of like an arena fighter in a sense, where it's like,
sure. Okay,
if you hold down the free roam button, you can actually just be like, I'm tired of looking at my opponent. I'm gonna go waddle off into the back of the arena.
My strat.
McKenna's strategy. Yeah, you said it already, but I think we've really done this game more justice than anyone has. I don't think anyone's talked about this game for as long as we have.
No one else is talking about Dark Rift. The only thing I could say is it's really impressive seeing the game at 60 frames per second. That is cool.
Yeah.
That is sick. It looks great. 60 frames per second looks awesome. Seeing it on the N64 like that, crazy. Love it.
Is there anything on N64? Like
I don't know. I don't know what else is like 60 frames per second on the N64. I'd have to go hunting.
When I think of like most of my favorite games on the console, they do not run at 60 frames per second.
The N64 is like a 24 frame per second retirement home.
I think it's fair to say we had more fun talking about the main event of this episode. McKenna set us up for Tetrisphere.
Not the Las Vegas Tetrisphere.
Not this phony Tetrisphere they're trying to pass off on us.
Don't mistake it.
Don't mistake. Don't get it twisted.
Tetrisphere is a 3D variation of Tetris in which layers of tetraminos are wrapped around a core in a spherical shape. Pieces are removed when you drop a piece on the sphere, creating a group of 3 or more like shapes, either next to each other in the same row or directly on top of each other. The piece you drop must create a group of 3 or more, or you will lose a life. You can slide pieces identical to the one you're holding to pair up like pieces, or to force other pieces to drop into groups. Creating combos will net you a variety of magic items which can be used to remove sections of the sphere. The firecracker removes a small section, while the atom removes the entire top layer of pieces. There are several game modes, most of which involve reaching the core, along with some other challenges. The game also features a 2-player versus mode and a tournament mode.
So I think it's fair to say, well, I don't know. I'm assuming everyone here has played Tetris before. Is that?
Yeah,
I think so.
Count myself among them.
Well, you said you hadn't really played much Tetris.
I hadn't played a lot.
You're like, we were playing some Tetris, and you said this is the most Tetris I've played in my life. We played for like 15 minutes. It kind of blew me away. But yeah, it's kind of hard not to mention the original Tetris when talking about this game, because it was such a big. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. It's like one of the video games.
They only made movies about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but one thing that's interesting about it is kind of after Tetris, like all the attempts of like what's next for Tetris? How do we evolve the game? And a lot of people took a lot of different cracks at it. We kind of messed around with some of them and played some different Tetris games, but I think Tetrisphere is probably actually one of the more unique, and probably like it doesn't actually like play like Tetris, I don't think, but I think it kind of captures the, I don't know, I sort of have the similar bug where like I kept wanting to go play it. You know, I wasn't exactly having the Tetris effect, but I kept going back to it. So I think Tetrisphere, I was kind of surprised by this one. But like, Jay, have you played this game much before?
I played it back when I was like 8 years old, and I was like, I don't get it. And I was like, it was like my uncle. It was like my uncle had a bunch of games, or he came over or something, and I was like, okay, cool. Don't get it, Banjo-Kazooie.
I could totally see that.
Yeah, I was like, because it's not easy. It is not easy to grasp this game.
Yeah, I did like, we watched like the training mode, and then it sort of made sense, but it was like, especially with the puzzle based stuff, like that was a little bit hard to wrap your head around. But I could totally see like that would definitely throw me for a loop if I was playing it for the first time when I was a little kid, for sure.
Yeah, I was 8.
Booting up Tetrisphere and getting the like, the time to getting the tutorial and the number of minutes it took to like digest the information it was giving me was a little daunting. This game is both easier than Tetris, but far more complicated in the way that it works.
That's fair to say, yeah. So this was your. I think this is pretty much everyone's first time. Well, no, not Jay. You played it, but like your first time since you were young. Yeah.
If 5 minutes before Banjo-Kazooie went slam dunking back into the console.
Well, yeah,
you didn't get past the instructions.
8 years old, did you think I knew how to read?
I will say I have one memory of this game. It's not of playing it though, but it did kind of like bring me back when I thought about it. About like I don't remember when this was. It was probably like, oh man, I used to say like about 10 years ago, but now it's like closer to 15 years ago. Time is flying by, but I'd say like close to 15 years ago, I was on tour with my band. I don't know if we were like in Oklahoma or something. And we played, and then it was like, it's like that we're kind of in that we were just staying at whoever's house we could after the gigs, you know, like whoever would let us stay, because we were not having money, we were not making money, you know what I mean? We're just like, please, we'll crash anywhere. So someone's like, yeah, you can crash at my place. Like, I think maybe whoever set up the show or whatever. And we get there, and there's like 3 other guys who are not at the show. And it was like, you could smell the weed from before you like came into the apartment they're at.
Oh yeah.
And they had a projector, and they were playing Tetrisphere, and they were playing Robotron. I think there was Robotron on N64.
Yeah, because they're very similar games.
Yeah.
Were they also rotating the Tetrisphere with their minds instead of the controllers?
They were not fazed by us at all, and they weren't even like hey, want to play or anything. They were just like, we're fucking playing Tetrisphere and Robotron.
Lock the fuck in.
I think actually like one person in the band was like kind of pissed because they were like, I want to sleep, and like these guys are like raging. They were like raging playing this game. It was like a college, like they were college guys. They were like partying, but they had this was probably like 2011, and they were like riding hard on this N64 playing Tetrisphere. And I'd never seen the game before, so when I first turned it on and saw that again, it like immediately sent me back to that moment.
The blunt smoke hit your nostrils.
And now I'm like, this is me. I'm like the dumb stoner idiot, like enraptured by Tetrisphere. For sure.
The olfactory senses forget, but then the brain will always remember.
So yeah, but that was, you know, I was happy to get back into it. But what was your reaction to playing the game? How did you feel about it?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like I could just get lost in it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could very easily play for like an hour and be like, oh wow, I've been playing for an hour.
I said, it's not like the original Tetris at all, but it is like similarly addictive. Like, especially because they would like kind of rapid fire hit you with like a handful of the levels, so I would just be tempted to keep playing, and they did a good job of like, when you got to a new chapter, it felt like it eased off and got easier, and then it would like kind of ramp up in difficulty again. So I sort of I was sort of like riding this wave, you know what I mean? Like, it just kept me going.
I will say the fact that there's like no loading time between games makes you like so locked in. Like when one map or something, whatever word you want to use to describe it, when one sphere is done, like the next sphere is starting up. Like there's not really like a time to take a break, because it's like,
I got it ready for you.
Just keep playing. Hey buddy, what you gotta do? Just keep playing. And like that is such a it grips you. Like it's so hard to stop playing that game.
I did see this game was made by H2O Entertainment, who are based out of Calgary. So shout out to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I don't think they made many games, actually. I think they did another Tetris game for N64. And then they did what's the game called? Like Aiden Chronicles or
oh my god, they're the ones that did Aiden Chronicles?
I believe so, yeah. I think that was the only other. Are you signed up for that game? Is that on N64?
I have to be signed up for that game. I don't know anything about it, but I just like that game sticks out to me. Like it'll be like 5 years, but I think that's a very late entry in the N64. But like I will have to be on that.
But it's kind of I don't know. It's they're like I feel like there's been weird like connections between some of our games before, and I feel like these both are there, where it's like they kind of are by studios that kind of just existed around the same length of time, kind of were there, and then they didn't really go much beyond their own era, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
This Tetrisphere does remind me of like the era of like what you said, like trying something different with Tetris, because like in my mind, Tetrisphere exists in the same world as like Tetris Attack on the SNES, which is not a Tetris game in the fucking slightest. But I
think the ones that did it the best were the ones that were not like Tetris at all, really, actually, because I think like there was I don't know, Matt, how familiar are you with like some Tetris sequels or whatever you want to call them? Do you know any?
Not incredibly familiar, to be honest.
Okay, so there is, and some of these actually, there's some by Alexei Pajitnov himself, who created Tetris. I'm trying to remember which ones he did. He did one called Weltris, which is like it's like 3D and you're looking down the well. So looking at it, I didn't get a chance to play that one. It looked kind of strange the way that works. He also made a game called Hatris.
This is all news to me.
He made a game called Hatris, where instead of tetrominoes falling, hats fall down, and you have to match them up with like hats, and then they get shipped off, like, and sold or whatever. Like, I don't know, you work at a hat factory or something. And then they eventually adapted that game into Yoshi and Yoshi's Cookie. Like those, I don't know if you ever played those, but it's basically reskinned, and it's like instead you've got like a Goomba and a Blooper falling, and you gotta kind of make them line up with like types to make them disappear or whatever. Which those were fun to some extent, but then there's of course Dr. Mario is kind of a take on that, but
yeah,
Nintendo with they were very bold, and they created a game, I believe they created it, called Tetris 2. And
oh my god, do you remember there's a Tetris 2 out there in the world?
There's a Tetris 2, and what they did was they were like, what if shapes fell but they had colors like Dr. Mario? And so like the colors would line up, but they weren't even the tetrominoes. They were like their own shape. I don't know. I can't even describe it, but that one looked kind of strange. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But fact of the matter is, I think Tetris Attack, like you mentioned, and this kind of succeed. I mean, they almost don't need the Tetris name, honestly.
Right. Yeah. Except that it sounds really cool. The
Tetrisphere is one of the coolest names for a video game.
Great name.
The only reason like Tetrisphere needs the Tetris name is because it's still using the Tetrinos. Like Tetris Attack is not using Tetrinos. Yeah. There's nothing there. But this one, like this is like the best of that type of offshoot, because it's still the building blocks of Tetris, but Jesus, are you doing so different with it?
Yeah, I can see kind of I think the concessions they like. If they tried to keep it too faithful to Tetris, it would not have worked. They almost kind of created an inverse Tetris where like it's already full, and you have to like clean it up from the top down.
Yeah, the rescue and hide and seek modes felt more like it felt more like those power wash simulator games where you're the joy is just addictive, clearing stuff off.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's way more it's not very tense. It's a little lax for
especially with some of the music they're playing. I just enter like the zone.
The music. The music in Tetrisphere is so good. I was immediately in.
speaking of it, it wasn't as intense as The Prodigy or whatever, but I was kind of like in that same sort of like headspace while playing it.
It's funny because like, we've a couple of years ago we were in the Y2K revival boom, and people were kind of remembering it's like, oh yeah, 90s video games, they all have that drum and bass and techno, and like you go back and you listen, and they're like, most of those games are kind of halfway there. They're not always 100% there, but like Tetrisphere is all the way there.
Oh,
like,
oh yeah.
Like there's like some tracks where I'm like, that's the amen break. Like I know that's the amen break. Like whoever's doing the sound for Tetrisphere was like on the cutting edge. Like they knew what was going on. There's great drum and bass. There's really accurate, like period accurate acid house. Like I hear that squelching noise, and I'm like, that is that the Roland 808 or whatever it is? Like this is really contemporary, like electronic music. This isn't someone trying to phone it in. This is someone who like knows what's going on right now.
Oh yeah.
Why don't we give a shout out to, I didn't have it prepared, but I just looked up. Neil Voss did the soundtrack for the game. He also did the new Tetris, which is the other H2O Tetris game. We'll be talking about that someday. Racing Gears Advanced. I've never played that, but shout out to Neil Voss. Yeah,
Neil, you did a great job.
He killed it.
He used Fast Tracker 2 on a Pentium PC. So thanks Wikipedia. But yeah, he did nail it. It was crazy. It's like weird actually, because it actually does fit with the sort of vibe of the game, like itself, like sort of just like there's something like kind of ambiguously sci-fi about the Tetrisphere, you know what I mean? And like you're freeing these robots, and
it's funny that you brought up Robotron 64 initially, because like this and Robotron 64 and like Asteroids for the PS1, they all have this thing where we're going to take an idea and we're going to make a 3D game out of it, but we don't really know what to do else with that. So the background's just going to be cool 3D stuff.
Yeah.
Like they all have the like, hey, we're going to make like a 3D puzzle kind of game, or we're going to use 3D. But what if we just had like cool 3D trippy background stuff? And so like they all have that, and Tetrisphere's it's hypnotic, it's you're playing in the Winamp visualizer.
I'm looking at I'm gonna read from Wikipedia for a second, which I try to avoid, but he's talking about the different tracks and the names and stuff. So phony is because I felt that the track was too close to Liam Howlett's of The Prodigy. So he even like was saying like this song sound like I'm ripping off The Prodigy, so I'm gonna call it phony.
I could easily see where like what he's doing is hopping off of like Charlie or one of the early Prodigy songs.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it
old
definitely
school UK rave.
Yeah, the Robotron. I don't know, like the guys must have just they that was maybe their brand. Maybe like I was judging them. I'm like, these guys are like these college bros or whatever, but I'm like, maybe they have like, they have like a unique taste, they could have been playing like, Madden or something, but instead,
yeah, really, like they picked the two, like, they picked like the true druggy games, like both of them are the trippy visual kind of cliche druggy looks.
I do think Tetrisphere fits the vibe that I was imagining for that story.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's 100%.
Now looking back on it, it's like I was the lame one in the situation. I should have just been like, "What's up, guys? Like, can I play?" But instead, I was like, "Oh, they're playing this game and they won't even like talk to us or whatever." I'm like,
"Dude, you're probably like, I want to go to fuck to sleep."
Yeah. Just in general, very cool. Like the different modes, I think were pretty fun. Like I wanted to play more of the puzzle mode, but I just could not stop playing the escape mode or whatever, the rescue mode. Like
I was the opposite on that. I really loved the puzzle mode a lot.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it was honestly like even early on, it was pretty challenging, I thought. Like
yeah.
I think the reason I didn't play it as I really liked it, actually. I don't even really have anything bad to say about it, but what was harder about it for me, you kind of already mentioned it, but in Escape, like, I didn't have to use my brain too hard, and you know, they had all the things like Jay, you were talking about getting into like gravity combos and all this stuff. I saw you posting about it, but I was like, I definitely got how those worked and stuff, but I was mostly just like just kind of like rapid fire placing pieces wherever, and you know, I got through like even some of the what they said were like the harder courses, like okay, whereas in like puzzle mode it was like a different experience, you know. It was still very fun, but I was definitely like it made me a little bit more anxious playing it, you know, because I'm like, I'm gonna do the, you know, I tried to brute force too many puzzles too, so that made it a little hard. But
you'll never guess this. I primarily played the versus mode.
The versus? Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because it has a long versus mode for single player where you're playing against all the other AI bots, and they're increasing in difficulty, and it is really difficult.
Oh my God.
They get very. That's the only thing. There's so much fucking game in here.
Yeah,
there's a lot of game.
You're blowing my mind right now. Like I honestly, like, I don't think I'm ready to move on from this game.
I'm gonna keep playing it.
Yes.
I know. I said this last time. I was like, I don't think I'm on the docket for a while, and then I showed up the next month. But I do think I'm on a little break from being on the docket. I'm gonna keep playing Tetrisphere. There's like so much shit to do in this game. I haven't figured it all out yet.
Yeah, I don't even think I barely touched the verses. We played against each other, which was that was all right.
You can do verses against all the bots, and they start off easy, and then they start butt kicking like real bad, and that's where you have to learn like the gravity combos, because like this. So you'll never guess this, but puzzle games and fighting games, they share the same DNA. Like, people are the same type of sickos for it, especially because you can do competitive puzzle, like versus puzzlers or battle puzzlers or whatever you want to call them. There's really not a good name for it, but like puzzle fighters versus puzzlers. So like it's the same thing where there's like a I get it moment for puzzle games like this, where you're like, I can read it like the Matrix. Like, I can see the blueprints and I can see what I need to do to make combos happen. And so much of that is like the same type of like, okay, it clicks now. I can see the setups. I can get gravity combos going, which increases my multiplier, which means I can send more junk over. And it's addicting. It's the only thing I love more than like the feeling of fighting games is the feeling of being in the zone for puzzle games. It's so addicting. And Tetrisphere's loop is awesome. Just I have to keep playing because I have to figure out how fuse combos work, because gravity combos are so much fun. And like the smart shit about this game is being able to pull pieces from under the layer that you're working on to start setting things up. Once I realized that, I was like, the people who made this are fucking geniuses. Like, this game rules. There's so much shit you can do.
I think especially if you're going to be getting into, like, if you want to, really get into it, I think the puzzle mode is actually really good teacher of the game and its rules. Much more so than just kind of the beginning tutorial and then going into it. Just the puzzle mode taught me a lot of like, this is what I have to do for that. I can see, you start to see into the code.
Yeah.
Like, I see.
A lot of games like this, if they have a puzzle mode like that, it is somewhat secretly the next tutorial, because it'll teach you like, hey, these are the combo patterns you need to recognize.
Absolutely.
Like, you need to look for these setups.
You guys are blowing my mind right now.
I think we started puzzle mode and we hadn't watched all. I think there was one of the tutorials that we didn't watch.
Yeah, and so we missed some stuff.
Yeah, so we're in puzzle mode and we're like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. So we go back and watch the one, and it has the one thing that we need to know to do this puzzle.
There was another one where the tutorial, I don't even think mentioned it. Or there was just some minor things that, like, in some of the earlier puzzle levels, like, I didn't understand you could do that I don't even think the video covered. But I think once I looked up the solution to it, I started to see it, in the future levels. So that did kind of frustrate me just like a little bit, to where I was like, I think I stuck with that other mode. But now, like, I felt like that the rescue mode I was playing, I felt like that was the game. But now the way you describe it, I'm like thinking Versus is actually the game.
That's the beauty of it, is they're all the game. Like,
yeah,
there's so many different ways to play Tetrisphere, because it has a system that allows for different expressions on it.
It's so weird because it's the same controls, the same mechanisms, but changing from just I'm sitting here clearing stuff to I'm solving a puzzle to I'm trying to clear stuff against someone else changes the vibe completely. There's multiple games within this game.
Yeah, there's a moment I had, I was in the middle of Versus. Like, they made junk 3D. They're fucking maniacs. Junk drops are now in the third dimension.
Yeah, when you like the junk drops, actually, that's like the most Tetris thing about it, honestly, other than the shapes, is like when you're in the competitive mode. That's like one of the most satisfying things in Tetris, is to send a bunch of junk your way.
That's the meat and potatoes of, like, puzzle fighters is racking up a combo, sitting, waiting 3 seconds, and watching the junk drop. You're like, okay, GG, shake my hands.
The only, I guess the reason I thought, and I played the most, because I didn't have time to play like through every mode, obviously, but we definitely got pretty far into like below the surface of the game for sure. Except I guess that one mode. But the reason I also stuck with the rescue mode was because they, I played so far. I played to a certain chapter and they go, keep playing and you'll get an ending. It's like, I was like, oh, an ending. I didn't even know why we're here, like I think we read the manual and we learned about the robots and stuff, and I picked the one I thought looked coolest, and it turns out there's an ending, and I don't even remember what happened. I got like a little cut. It was like less than the average fighting game I've played from this era, where I just like, they just showed all the robots like goofing around, I guess. And then I saw credits and I was like, okay, cool, I beat the game. And then they were like, hey, keep playing and you'll get like a special ending or something. So I played again and I got like a different cutscene of like, there was a dragon and all the robots were like, one-upping each other and stuff. And then I got credits again and I was like, cool. And then they're like, all right, now here's like the hard levels. They didn't say there was more endings, but I just felt like I felt compelled to like keep going, because they kept giving me endings or whatever. They were like teasing me, So I thought kind of that was the main mode.
There's
but
so much fucking game in this game.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
they just keep giving you more game.
Because you look at the screen and it's just like, it looks like there's a couple different modes, and you think, okay, like, whatever, I'll screw around in this mode, and then you get into it and you're like if there was a game that was just the puzzle mode, like that could be its own game, you know what I mean, like without the other things, or if there was just like the rescue mode, like, and maybe like a versus attached, it didn't need all that stuff, but it felt like each one was like you could spend hours and hours in any given mode, except for maybe hide and seek was a little bit of the dork goofy mode, where it was like, it was kind of fun, but it was like I feel like it is pretty much the same game, just like instead of freeing a robot, I'm looking at a picture or something, that one was a little less exciting. But the puzzle, the versus, and rescue were all like really distinct and really meaty. It blew me away. Also, just the fact that we could I don't know, we kind of had you could I don't know if you played with a controller pack, but it was cool. You could kind of you could actually have like 10 different files, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like a lot of other games we're playing from the time, you can have like 4 files or whatever, but we loaded it up, and whoever had this controller pack before me like there was all kinds of Tetris. We had to like decide actually who to delete. It was kind of hard. Like it felt like we were erasing someone's memory, you know.
We kept the X-Files one.
There was one file called X-Files. Did you feel like playing as certain robots helped you? Did you have a main?
I just stuck with like I want to call him like the little octopus looking guy.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of the one that had like the bristle rotator on the tail side of him. He was kind of like a UFO looking guy with the.
He's like looked like he could scrub something.
He
really
looked
good.
like the scrubbing bubbles if he was a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really mess because like, they had stats, but I didn't mess with anyone in terms of trying to change it up. I know that I probably play more into competitive, but I was kind of more for grinding out the theory of like it doesn't matter what character I play.
Yeah.
I want to learn the theory of this so I can start smoking.
Yeah, at the risk of like offending anyone, I feel like they probably aren't that much different, right? Like
it'll be like minor changes, but you know, nothing compared to once you learn the theory.
I'll look out for the mobs. Don't you speak that way about the robots. Matt, did you have a main?
Not really. I was just default guy.
You picked like there was like a rocket dude or something. I think we picked the same guy. We liked the same guy, and then I felt kind of like weird about it. Like, should I pick a different guy? Like, I want to be unique, but I didn't. I was like, I don't want to go through the trouble to change the robot. Though I did kind of like the tutorial guy, the wheels guy.
Yeah,
he was chill. He had a good like vibe in general.
They kind of reminded me of the paperclip guy.
Yeah, Clippy.
He was like the sphere Clippy. The whole game was a great vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I did kind of already dip my toe. We've kind of dipped our toe into our next upcoming game, but I do kind of have this urge also to continue playing Tetrisphere, and I think it's one I'm gonna have to make time for. On top of all the, like I said, I bought like 10 versions of Tetris, so I'm about to be in my Tetris.
We played
era.
a lot of Tetris last week.
We were playing Tetris in general, yeah, which was fun. And columns on.
Oh my god!
I was going through the different game consoles on NSO and being like, what Tetris did they have on here? So I booted up the Genesis, and there was columns. What else was there? Oh, I don't know. There was like Magical Drop 2 on SNES. Yeah. You know that one? That one was pretty cool, actually.
Magical Drop 3 is a classic competitive puzzle fighter. That is a puzzle fighter game for freaks. You gotta move fast in that game, and you can't make a mistake.
Yeah, I think this is a high point for the Tetris clone, Tetris sequels, I guess you could say. So I don't know. I don't know where they could go from there. I think the new Tetris is less new than this, but I haven't played it. But I looked at like a screenshot and it looked like Tetris to me. So does anyone else have anything else they wanted to say about Tetrisphere?
I just want to say it's amazing. Everyone should play it. It is like we've kind of put some sugar on it, but like go out of your way to play this one. This was a huge surprise for me because it's like I played the game when I was 8 and I was like, I get it. Banjo-Kazooie. But now that I've sat down and played it, I was like, this game is amazing. This is unbelievable. This is something that I'm kicking myself for not having played sooner. So I think it is a game worth going out of your way to try and find and play.
And if you're not going to play it, just put the soundtrack on for an hour and just vibe out to it.
At least put up the soundtrack. It's killer.
I really liked that this is kind of in that era of time where you really wanted, obviously it was on the N64, you really wanted to show, this game is 3D. You know, everyone needed to figure out their way to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of levels in this, it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of perspective happening here. Things getting really close to you, and especially in the puzzle mode, sometimes it's just kind of like moving things around, like, what? I need to look at this at a different angle. I need to really see the whole 3D of this.
Yeah, that's the other thing in puzzle mode was like it was a bit harder because you had to do that for sure.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you got too like flustered and couldn't like focus on the 3D layers in Rescue, you could kind of like, there's times where I'd be like, I'm gonna cool off and just go to a different part of the sphere. I'm gonna go to the chill part of the sphere where it's more tame, you know.
I think a really fun aspect of, you know, games that really wanted to show off how 3D they are is, you know, little things in the menus. And something I really liked in Tetrisphere's menu, if you go to the controls page, it's got, you know, an N64 controller model, and it has like an overlay of like a text overlay, just like a picture that's like little lines to be what each button does, but you can rotate the controller and then the like the overlay just kind of fades away, and now you can just spin a controller around just for fun and just move it around, realign it to it. Look, it's a 3D model. You can turn things, you can change your perspective. Wow.
Someone worked hard on that. I think it's good. We take time to appreciate it.
It's all a part of the vibe. It's all part of the vibe
100%.
of this game.
This game was maxing out on vibes for sure.
This game is a slam dunk in the vibe category.
Oh yeah. I will say I would recommend this game to basically anyone I know who plays games. I think Nico caught a glimpse of it and was like saying like, "Oh, this looks like extremely complicated." And I definitely get like seeing it and feeling that way, similar to like Young Jay, but I would tell like anyone, if you just even watch like the first training mode in it, which takes like 30 seconds, the game, it like immediately it was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, you may not know all the finer things, but you can get in and you could probably play like your fill of the game and never have to like think about the advanced like stuff. And then it's there if you want to get into it. So I'd pretty much recommend this game to anyone who plays any type of video games.
It's got like a higher barrier to entry than Tetris, just with like learning things.
Yes.
But I think once you get past that, it has a lot of the same universal appeal.
Yes. That's the slight difference. I feel like Tetris I would like recommend to almost any human being. Mm-hmm. Whereas like this, I'd be like, well, okay, maybe if you're like kind of at least familiar with like games or something, you know, if you played a video game, maybe there's that. It's not like I think if I gave this to my grandma, she would I don't know what she would do.
Grandma's not getting a 7 chain.
There's a little robot in there? You gotta get him out?
You gotta save him. Grandma, he needs your help.
This is a great pairing of games, honestly. Like, especially it was good to get a taste of one and then kind of going back to the other. I will say our next game we're talking about is International Superstar Soccer 64. I'm pretty excited about that because we kind of had a not as fun soccer experience a few months ago, and this one is already off, I think, to a better start. So really looking forward to that episode. But Jay, as always, like, thank you for spending your time and kind of putting in the work and, you know, just being a good one of our great champion guests.
Hey, do you want to? If you got wacky ass games, I'm there.
Do you want to plug anything?
What's I mean, I've been on here enough times. If this is your first episode, you know how to find my YouTube channel, youtube.com/idolismj, IDOLISMJ. At the time of this recording, my most recent video is a very strange one because it talks about Aerogay and Aerogay music, specifically like opening themes. And like,
I'll be honest.
Not for everyone. If you don't watch that video, totally fine. Fine.
We watched this video. I started watching it and I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah. This one's out there. So,
but I think at the moment I asked myself that question in the video, you were like, you may be asking why. And then it was like, oh, okay. That was a great video. It was a very, I learned a lot, and then there's some bops in there.
There's some banger tunes. If they don't, nothing else, just get to the part with the video where I'm like, hey, here's the playlist I made all the banger tunes.
If you're ever upset, just close your eyes and you'll be all right.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just listen to the banging ass songs.
Matt, thank you so much for just taking a chance on some random games.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely
very fun.
We'll get you back on in the future for sure. What do you got for plugs?
I've got a podcast. It's a TTRPG actual play podcast called Tales from the Traveling Tower. You could probably find it searching Traveling Tower wherever you listen to podcasts. It's kind of on a hiatus right now, but it's coming back soon. So,
I will say it was like in the fall we kind of listened to it on a drive, and we were busting a gut. We were chuckling.
Oh, thank you so much.
That Golly guy was pretty funny too.
Oh yeah. Golly, that Michael. He's very, very funny. He makes me laugh too.
I don't know. We've plugged stuff enough all the time.
Yeah.
I want to plug our engagement.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Check out our life over on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah. Wherever you internet.
Come join our
Discord. Coming soon.
Come join our Discord. Come join our Discord and say congrats. Also, go leave a 5-star review and just say congrats or something like that. Just that could be your gift to us, our wedding gift. So. All right. Thanks again. We mentioned Nico, of course. Thank you, Nico, for cooking up all these tunes. We just got a message from Nico. I'm curious as to what that says, but maybe beat incoming.
Has he been cooking?
He's been cooking. Also, thanks to Corey for doing our logo. Again, you can find us online pretty much everywhere for the most part. Just Google it, Flashback 64, and wherever you want to find us, and you'll find it. We got social media, merch, all that stuff. With that, again, thanks to everyone for listening, and we will see you next month when we talk about International Superstar Soccer 64.
Bye.
Bye.